some stories and some things about Nicaragua that hopefully you guys will learn and remember, and then later on you can tell somebody else. Because you know what? That's what missionaries do. We tell people in Nicaragua about Jesus, but you guys can do the same thing. You know what? My wife's grandparents were missionaries in the same place that we are missionaries. They were missionaries in Nicaragua. And my wife's grandfather told me this story. Because this story really did happen a long time ago. You see, there was two girls, two sisters. And Kendra, do I have, is she here? Kendra was going to help me find two volunteers. And you know what? These two girls, they lived in the jungle. Are you going to help me? Awesome. What's your name? Elise? Very cool. And what's your name? Abigail. You girls are not sisters, are you? Okay, very good. But in the story, these two girls were sisters. So just pretend like you're sisters, okay? Okay, what do sisters do? They fight. No, I'm just joking. Don't fight. No. But in this story, you know what? Because this is a true story. There were two sisters, and they lived way out in the jungle. And in the jungle, they didn't have streets and highways. They had to walk through the jungle. You guys want to help me? You guys can follow me. We're going to pretend like we're walking through the jungle. Okay, can you do that? So these two girls, they would have to walk through the jungle like that. Oh, that's okay. No, so they would walk through the jungle. Oh my goodness, do not step on. That's poisonous right there. Come over here, this way, this way. Okay, right, good. And they would walk through the jungle to get to church. Because my wife's grandfather, he was a missionary, and he started a church there in Nicaragua where people came throughout the jungles to go there. And one Sunday, the two girls, they were walking to church by themselves, and they got to church and they sat down. You guys can just pretend like you're sitting and listening. And the missionary, who was my wife's grandfather, he was there, and he told the church about how strong Jesus was, and that Jesus was stronger than anything. And he said, you know what? When the disciples were in a boat one time, Jesus was asleep. He was just, and all of a sudden, this big storm came, and the wind was blowing, and the waves were like going crazy, and the disciples are freaking out. They're like, we're gonna die! And guess what Jesus was doing? He was sleeping. He was just like, and so the disciples went and they woke him up and they said, Jesus, what are you doing? We're going to die and you're sleeping. And Jesus stood up, and since he was stronger, more powerful than anything, Jesus said to the wind, and he said to the waves, he said, peace, be still, stop. And everything had to listen to Jesus, because Jesus is stronger than anything. And so whenever the missionary was telling that story, the two girls were like, whoa. Just like that. They were amazed. You know what? And those two girls, they ran home. So they ran home. Don't go that big rock. I'm going to go back this way. Oh, watch out for that tree. Oh my gosh. And so they ran home, and they told their mom and dad. They said, we heard this story about how strong Jesus was, and he's stronger than anything. They were just so amazed. Well, the next Sunday, when those two girls, they were going back to church, they were walking, and they were walking through the jungle. You know, in the jungle, there's lots of trees and who said that? You know what? There was a big snake that day. There was a big snake that day. And those two girls were walking through the jungle, and all of a sudden, there was a humongous boa constrictor waiting up in the tree. And when those two girls came walking through, you girls brave? Well, are you sure? Not really? Okay. But anyway, I'm going to need you to be brave, okay? Will you be brave? She's going to be brave. Will you be brave? Okay. You know what? I want to see if I have a snake in here. You know what? It's not alive. But this is a real snake from Nicaragua. I brought this back from Nicaragua. And this is actually a small boa. There are big boas that we've seen that are a lot bigger than this. But there was a boa that was bigger than this. That as those girls were walking through the jungle to go to church, all of a sudden, can you be brave? They were walking, and all of a sudden the boa jumped down on one of the girls. and it began to wrap itself around that girl. And it began, because you know, boas are not poisonous. Boas can't bite and sting and kill. They can't do that. Boas have to squeeze. And so the boa, it began to wrap itself around that little girl, and it began to squeeze. And she was looking at her sister, and she said, "Ayúdame." Can you say that? "Ayúdame," which means help me. And she said, "Help me. Ayúdame. Ayúdame." And she could say that to her sister, and look at her sister, she's just laughing. No, she didn't do that. The other sister, she was freaking out. Can I leave this for a second? Okay, I'm just gonna leave that like that. So the sister, she didn't know what to do. She didn't know, she didn't have a machete. She couldn't take out a knife and say, she couldn't do that. She didn't have a gun. She couldn't say, "Freeze!" Right there. Okay, got it. She couldn't do that. And she did not know karate. She couldn't go, she was freaking out. She didn't know what to do. And her sister, who was there being wrapped up, she's looking at her sister and she's like, "You gotta do something." And the snake began to squeeze, and all of a sudden, that snake put its mouth on top of her head. And it opened up.